Okay, there we go. And here's the agenda. All right, so first up is Vasila. Vasila.
Hi, yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Yes, will you be able to open the RFC? I'm not planning to share anything. Hello, everyone. So last week I had put this RFC in the meeting agenda so that you guys could do an offline review. I have with my colleague Zoltan also in the meetings in case you have any further questions. We both will try to answer. So CRLs, it is certificate revocation list. It's basically a list of revoked certificates maintained by the CAs, basically which are revoked before its actual expiry. So we already recently did this OSCP stapling. So thought of putting this proposal because CRL is like a requirement in many of our use cases. Basically a mandatory requirement. So it's like if the CRL list is specified, we can do additional validation of the certificates. Maybe we can just follow similar approach as OCSP stapling was done by having an additional item in the credential secret. And if it is present, the same can be propagated to Envoy for the additional validation because Envoy already supports CRL. So I think already there was an previous implementation proposed in Istio for the same. So, but there was no RFC or anything, and I think it was just left in between. If everybody is okay, probably I can revive that older PR and then see what is needed to take it to completion. CRL is already supported in Contour. I have added prior work links and everything in the RFC.
Quick question. So your proposal basically is to just to add to the secrets extra file, no? No other API implication.
No other API change.
I'm all 100% for it.
Yeah, I knew that you'll tell that, so I did not add any API change. Otherwise, the best thing would have been to add, CRL secrets explicitly in the DR or gateway, but I've not done that.
Thank you very much. I mean, I want to have APIs, but for things that are commonly used and understood. I mean, CRL is probably, not something to expose to users.
Yeah. So is it okay to try the implementation or any other concerns or comments?
So Vasila, thanks for writing the doc. A quick question: can you walk us through the user experience of how if they decided to leverage this function, since it's not resulting any change to our Istio API?
Yeah, so maybe we can add the documentation in Istio for how the usage and other things. And since it is like a very, low level thing, it is still okay for us this way. And even Contour has done a similar implementation. So basically it's okay for us. And we always wanted to minimize API changes these days explicitly in DR or gateway because we are moving away from many of those things. So I don't want to add.
I'm not asking for detail. I'm just mainly trying to understand there's no impact. So first of all, I'm trying to understand there's no impact to folks who choose not to use this function.
No
Second
impact.
of all, I'm trying to understand how to enable it. I assume maybe it's an environment variable on the gateway deployment.
There is no need to explicitly enable using any feature flag or anything. Basically, this means if this additional CRL property is present in the credential name secret, we will use it. If it is not there, it is the same old behavior, whatever we currently have, and nobody will be impacted.
So
Okay,
we create,
okay,
we
that's
create
cool.
the secret, you put an extra file in the secret,
Yeah.
which is required anyway, because that's what we will need to use.
Yes.
Okay, so it's automatically detected based on
Yes.
the secret, whether it has this particular field. Okay, and I think Austin, you asked a good question, whether if this is the gateway or the sidecar. Can you clarify that?
It can be in all the cases, ingress as well as egress cases. I have put all those details in the document. Maybe if you can scroll a little bit down, there is a diagram.
Sorry, to give context, my question was for ambient, which is the next meeting, but sometimes we leak here. Obviously, the thing will be very different, and probably we don't want to. I don't know. Maybe we can leave it for sidecars. I don't know, but I'm concerned about the differences in behavior between ambient and sidecars, which keeps growing. And if we could keep this feature only for ingress and egress gateways, it may be better long term.
Okay, but we do have use cases where we are using like sidecars, TLS termination and origination as well without a gateway.
I see. Okay, then we can leave it at maybe in the documentation, because we should at least mention that when used with sidecars, this feature is specific to sidecars and will not be propagated to ambient.
Okay.
I think the key part is that it's used only for users TLS, not for our internal MTLS or HBone.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
so if we support that in ambient, which I'd have to check what the current status of that is, then we can and would support this. And if not, then we wouldn't, right? It doesn't impact the HBone though.
Yeah, I want to make sure it doesn't impact HBone, and for the use cases of egress, which is pretty much or ingress to sidecar, in ambient they will be handled by either waypoint or egress gateway. I suspect, John. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think so. I have to think about it a bit more.
Okay, so just documentation. I mean, in documentation it says that, hey, if applied to a sidecar, obviously they will only be usable with the sidecar, not with the, and recommend users to use egress gateway if they want a common solution.
Okay.
Yeah, seems reasonable, Vasila.
Okay, then I'll try to implement, and then yeah. John, I have not put this in the agenda, but I wanted to ask about the ECDH curves thing, because it's in a deadlock now because Zongo has put a hold on the implementation PR, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, so are there a path forward, or is it just completely stalled right now? I'm sorry, I lost track of the latest.
Yeah, so if you
conversation.
could just ask Zongo. I have tried pinging him, but maybe some way forward, if that can be suggested, that would help me.
I mean, obviously, I have said I'm in favor of it. So if you and/or I, and it sounds like Rama is fine with it too, just maybe naming. I can try and follow up with Zongku and see if we can get him on board or see what needs to be changed. And if we can't come to resolution, then the usual escalation path is
Okay.
The working group and/or TOC. So
Sure. Thank you. And if anybody wants to go through the document, please go through it. And if there is any comments, please let me know.
Since we're on this topic, and to avoid context switches and everything else, John, on the documentation for ambient features that are different between ambient and sidecars, probably one of the most interesting is those secrets that are attached to sidecar and used for L7 sidecar egress and sidecar ingress and all the related functionality. Would it make sense to have separate docs for each set of features? Like we have documentation in Istio for egress, we have egress from sidecar, egress from egress gateway. Then we have ingress with custom certificates on gateway and on sidecar. I don't know, to put some comment on the docs that they are not going to be supported in ambient, that we're not recommending them, or what will be the proper approach to, because we have a lot of documentation, a lot of users are confused already.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure if we thought a lot about it at the stage. If you haven't catch up, I think right now we're creating some documents on the operations section for ambient. So ambient has its own section for docs right now. So we're putting relevant contents over as needed as people have bandwidth.
No, that's very good, and I'm aware of that, and thank you very much for those changes. But I'm wondering about the rest of the documentations that are on the Istio IO side. If we want to have some stance, because in general we have features that work in multiple ways, like for attaching a certificate, which is this use case. It can be done always in 2 or 3 ways, and we don't necessarily have a best practice or what we recommend people. We don't have any indications that this will, moving forward, if you adopt ambient, it will keep working or not. So maybe put some small boilerplate text saying that this feature will not work in ambient. Please use egress gateway if you want to have a certificate for outbound call, for example, which seems to be this use case.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. If we know it's not working, I think put a warning or somehow on the page would be great. Like Priscilla, when you add your page, we know it's not going to work for ambient, then it makes sense to add a warning or something to warn the user.
Okay.
Not only for this feature, I mean, not only for CRL, I mean, in general, for using a secret to make egress calls from a pod to external site, for example. It's one of the use cases, or okay.
Yeah, I hear you. It's just the egress area, for example, like the example you gave. I think we don't have clarity on ambient yet on some of those. I just hate to update the doc, when we don't have clarity, and it might confuse existing user who are only using sidecar. I think it needs to be thought of a little bit more.
Yeah, well, we do have clarity that if you mount a secret in a pod, it's very unlikely anything except sidecar, will work, because it will not have access to the secret. And we have some clarity that, using an egress gateway, it's a better solution for security, and, it's a more future-proof solution. Okay, we'll take it case by case. So maybe I'll see. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments or action items on this particular issue? Okay, sounds like that's a no. Does anyone else have any agenda? All right, going once, going twice, going 3 times. If not, then let's conclude today's meeting. Okay, thank you. Take care.